Hello, seventh grade parents. It's Mr. Oliver. Hi, and this is one down here. That's. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Mrs. Zaza, school counselor at the junior high. Mr. Alexander says hello. He's sorry that he missed you, but his computer was not cooperating today.
So, what we're going to try and do for you today, parents of our incoming seventh grade class for the fall of 2020, is just run through our parent orientation that we did about a week ago. That I know a number of you missed, and we're going to give you the short version of this. But Mrs. Zaza and I really wanted to be able to go over this information for those of you that weren't able to join us. So when we get done with this presentation, if you have any questions about anything, all you have to do is call me at the junior high, and I can answer any questions you might have about the transition to seventh grade. Without further ado, we'll get moving through our slides. I can skip that one because you're not on the meeting with us. So the first thing that you should know is there's a group of people at the junior high that you should really get to know. I'm one of them. I'm the principal. I almost called myself Mr. Norris, Mrs. Zaza. Our dean of students, Mr. Norris, is the guy that takes care of all the student discipline. Below me right here, that's Mrs. Zaza. She deals with counseling for our students in the alphabets from A to K. Mr. Alexander, who can't be with us for technical problems, is the guidance counselor for L through Z. We have two secretaries in the main office. Mrs. Block is the secretary on my side of the office. She helps me and Mr. Norris out. Mrs. Witten is on the guidance side of the office. She is the one that you'll deal with for attendance and things like that. And then we have Mrs. Gilman and Mrs. Mock. Those of you that were at Nightingale know Mrs. Mock. She's been your school psychologist over there for a while too. So that's the group of people in our office. And when you get a chance to finally come into the building, you should make it a point to come meet all of us because we're nice people.
Yep, and just to let you know that the nurses are all really great about communicating with each other. So if your student has any kind of medical needs, receives medication at school, or has any, inhaler, anything like that, they have already been in contact with Mrs. Gilman. So that transition will be pretty smooth.
Now, as we move into the rest of this presentation where we talk about what the school looks like, I have to just go down a little side path for a minute and talk to you and let you know that what we're going to present to you today in this presentation reflects what we normally do. I would be ignorant to not acknowledge the fact that we don't actually know what we're going to be doing in the fall. It's in our interest today to just tell you what junior high normally looks like and try and keep up some sense of normalcy in this whole COVID thing. So we're going to go quickly over what the schedule normally looks like. But I want you to know that we're well aware that there's tough decisions that lay ahead of us when it comes to COVID-19 in the junior high school. I want you to know that we're following all the guidance that's out there from the governor's office, from the CDC, and from the New York State Department of Health. We will have plans in place for the fall, whatever school should look like. But the rest of this presentation will be aimed at what we normally do. But no, we're covered for the things we're not expecting as well. So the daily schedule, I think this is one for you, Mrs. Zaza, isn't it?
Yes, this is where our students have a rough transition usually when they get started, because we start so much earlier than pretty much everybody else in the district. Our students start arriving typically sometime after 7:10. We don't open the building until, well, actually, let me start over. We let students in the building to get breakfast, and they can stay in the cafeteria and have breakfast, but we don't let the students in the rest of the building down to their lockers and classrooms until 7:20. And then at 7:30, the bell rings. Everybody should be in homeroom. They're taking attendance, and we're going through announcements. The day ends unofficially at 2:28. We have one bus run, and then we have a late bus run at 3:02. New last year, we have 20-minute advisory period every day. It starts, you start your day in advisory. That's where you're going to get attendance taken, get your breakfast, get your stuff ready for the day, get your Chromebooks. Then we move into our periods. We have 3 different staggered lunches: A lunch, B lunch, C lunch, because we can't fit all the kids in the cafeteria at one time. And end the day with activity period 2:30 to 3. That could be kids that are staying after because they have sports, kids that want to get caught up on work, kids that need extra help on doing any of their assignments, or kids that owe detention.
So this is more like what a schedule would look like.
Is what the day looks like. Yes. So it starts in homeroom. We have a double block of ELA. They might have chorus, music, study hall. This schedule was scheduled for a lunch, and then they go into the periods after a lunch. They look like double periods, but they're not. It's like period 6, 7, period 8, 9. Then they go into period 10 and 11, and tech and art are also blocked. On the white day, this would be slightly different. ELA might be social studies. Music and chorus might be PE. Tech and art might be another class that they're taking. I can't think of any others.
That's okay. So this is kind of what a schedule would look like.
Yes.
Again, this is normal. There's every chance this could look different in the fall, but this is generally speaking what a kid's day would look like at the junior high.
And we're hoping for normal.
We are. Fingers crossed.
So over the 2 years, you'll notice that everything is units except for modern language. So unit just means that New York State says we have to expose kids for English every single day for 2 units. And 1 unit is in 7th grade, the other unit is in 8th grade. Social studies, math, science, they're all the same. Technology, the mandate is only 1 unit. Health is a half a unit. So health happens during half of a year. Art is half a year. Facts is half a year. Family and consumer science is what home ec used to be. Music is a half a year, and so if your child is in band, chorus, orchestra, that meets their unit. Modern language, or if your child accelerates and takes earth science and algebra, they will also be earning a credit. Modern language doesn't happen until they're 8th graders. And so at the end of 7th grade, actually right about now, is when I'm harassing 7th graders to let me know what language they want to take. We only offer French and Spanish because those are the only teachers that we have.
So we do offer acceleration at the junior high school. The reason we bring this up in the grade 7 parent orientation is simply to say that school matters immediately for your 7th grader. If you have a high achieving student who wishes to be accelerated and get ahead in their math and science, they have to perform very well as a 7th grader. They have to have over a 90 average. They have to have good attendance. And if they are at the end of 7th grade year, they'll be invited to be accelerated at junior high. And if they are, they'll be taking algebra and earth science, which are both high school courses. They go on their transcripts and there's Regents exams in both of them. So it is a great opportunity at junior high school, but we want parents to know to be able to do that opportunity, they have to perform very well as soon as they join us in the fall.
Yep.
We do offer, if acceleration is at the high end of our students, for our students that struggle a little bit more, we have all the supports that you're familiar with out of the elementary school. We still have ELA and math labs. We have Title I support. We have tiered intervention where kids could be getting help in ELA and math. We also have summer school that we use and our special education program. We just want to let you know that there's a ton of support at the junior high for kids that struggle a little bit. And if you ever need to know anything about these supports, all you need to do is reach out to me. I'll let you talk teaming.
I have screwed up teaming so many times, guys. So that's why Mr. Oliver's laughing. He's like, what is she going to say now? So our team concept is designed so that kids don't fall between the cracks. It's meant to be their safety net. So we have 4 teams total in the building. Only 2 are 7th grade teams. We have team 1 and team 2. Both of those teams consist of ELA, math, science, social studies teachers, special area teachers. So art and facts are going to go opposite each other. So half of the year they'll have art on that team, and then the other half they'll have facts, and vice versa. You know, they swap. They also both have special ed supports, resource supports on both teams. The reason we do this is when you have 110 students, it's really easy for a quiet kid to kind of go unnoticed. So the team gets together during a period every other day to be able to discuss their students and what's going on. They're talking about Johnny falling asleep in somebody's class and finding out, was he falling asleep in, in somebody else's class? Is there something going on? Do we need to call home? This student was doing awesome, stop doing work. Let's make a phone call home. And they all call together. I'm having a test on Tuesday. Can you guys not have a test on Tuesday? Those are the kind of conversations that they're trying to have to make sure that they're taking care of the kids, that everyone is getting the supports that they need, and to have better parent communication.
At junior high school, we follow all the relevant New York State curriculum for junior high school. We're working, we're working on transitioning out of Common Core standards towards the next generation standards in most of our core areas. Our students are tested both in 7th and 8th grade in ELA and math, and then again in 8th grade they have a science assessment as well. Basically what you need to know about the junior high school is everything we do is geared at transitioning kids from elementary school to the high school. You will notice that kids have to do more work independently. You'll notice that kids have to do more homework to be successful. And all of that is aligned and created to help your kids be ready for when they go to high school in 2 years. So we're completely in line curricularly with everything your kids need to do to be successful once they go to high school. As far as report cards go, and I'm sorry I have to put us over a little bit of this, the trimester report card is gone that you're familiar with at elementary school. You'll now have 4 quarterly report cards and it's numeric grades. Having been an elementary principal for a while, most parents like the numeric grades better, and it's the 100-point scale that you're used to. We still use School Tool. We still use the parent portal. You'll be able to log in and see your kids' grades. You'll get 4 quarterly report cards, and then every 5 weeks between the report cards, you'll get a progress report from us. And then obviously, anytime you need anything else, all you have to do is reach out to anybody at the building and we'll help you out.
Yeah, if you haven't gotten a piece of mail and it's like week 7, call us, because either we have your address screwed up or your student intercepted the mail.
This one's you too, isn't it, Carrie?
Is it? Oh, yeah. The activities. Yes, it is. Sorry. Get distracted by my own thoughts. It's what happens. All right. The ways that junior high students can be involved. There are a lot of things that they can't really sign up for. They just have to work towards to try to be rewarded. And then other things that they can actually actively sign up to be a part of. Student of the quarter, that's just us trying to honor and reward our students who are working hard and doing well. That happens once a quarter. We call people in, and Mr. Oliver always says some really nice things about the students and heckles them if he knows them. It's fun times. Student council is very similar to what already happens in the elementaries. That's our student governing body. They do have to get petitions signed if they want to run for the officer positions. That would be vice president, treasurer, secretary. President is always an 8th grader, and the vice president is always a 7th grader. So they can petition to run for those, or if they don't want to speak in front of the whole student body and just want to be involved, they can be a homeroom representative, and they're the ones that actually schedule and staff the dances. The field experience, which goes to Boston and Washington, did not happen this year. It is a long-standing tradition. It can be a little bit pricey, but we start fundraising right away. So if you think your student would want to be a part of that and you're not sure about how to make it happen, you can reach out to me or Mr. Alexander and make sure that your student is listening, because we start fundraising right at the end of September. We get going on it, and I definitely have had students fundraise their entire trip in the past. 85 Plus Club is a reward. That's every student who gets an 85 or higher in every single class during a quarter. We try to take fun trips. We've been to Calypso, we've been to Titus, we've been to the Nicandry Center for cross-country skiing, we've been to the movies. We try to do really fun things to reward the kids. Robotics is similar to what's in the elementary, except for now it's real robots. It's actual machinery and building robots and competing them against that's not the word. That's bringing them to Clarkson. They're bringing
I'm gonna jump in and help Mrs. Zaza out for a minute now.
Or
The rest of it, the robotics does compete over at Clarkson. It's a very nice thing for the kids to be able to do. We have a number of select groups and regular groups in music. You have a transition program called Web, which we'll talk about a little bit later on in this program. So there's lots of opportunities for your kids to get involved at junior high.
and then we
In
have
addition, there's
sports.
sports.
So now would be the time when we'd be signing up for fall sports. And the fall sports are football, soccer, volleyball is missing, and cross country. We haven't heard anything from our athletic director to know whether or not those are happening, when they're going.
So we're going to assume they're happening until we hear otherwise.
So, but the signups aren't happening.
Yeah, you would reach out to Gavin Reagan, our athletic director. He could help you out if you had questions about that. And I can get you contact information if you need it.
Yeah, in fact, we might just want to post that because I'm not sure if the signups are open or what they're doing, because we would have already done that and they would have had their physicals in your elementary building. So we'll get back to you on sports.
We'll get you some more information, but in the short term, if you need anything, you can get a hold of Gavin, our
Mr. Reagan
director. Tips for parents. I'm not going to go through all of these, but on the video, if you wanted to read them, you could. Basically, the big tip for junior high parents is junior high is the first place where school gets a little heavier. They have to do things outside of school. They have to put in a little bit more effort to be successful. Having had kids go through the system, at the elementary level, your kids can sometimes be successful and not have to do a whole lot outside of school. At the junior high school, that same behavior will probably get you to pass the class, but you won't be really successful. In order to be really successful at the junior high school, you have to be consistently doing homework, you have to stay after when you have questions, and you have to be actively involved with your education. If you're not doing those three things, it's hard to really excel. We try our best to communicate. We do things like this video. This isn't the only time we do things like this. We promise we'll get you all the information that you need, and we want you to know that if you have any questions at all, you need to get back to us. Attendance is key at junior high. You have to make sure your kids are coming to school every day. I want you to talk to your kids a little bit about diversity and respect and tolerance before they come into the building. It's a big school. You have 200 kids coming into the 7th grade this year from all over the community. There's very little your kid's not going to get exposed to. They're going to get exposed to kids from different races, from different cultures, from different sexual identities, from different gender identities. And the more you can kind of talk to them about that, the better their transition will be. And obviously we help out in the office and in the counseling department as well. There's a lot of personalities at play at the junior high. In the elementaries, you're pretty well lucky. I deal with a small number of teachers and a small number of kids. The junior high, you have to deal with everybody. So teaching your kids about, tolerance and respect and resilience and how to be okay when things aren't going the way you like it to be are all important lessons. And maybe the most important thing on this page is we always end and it's covered up and I feel bad about it. Junior high kids are notoriously bad storytellers. So what we promise is we promise not to believe everything they tell us about you, as long as you promise to believe not to believe everything that they tell you about us. If something doesn't feel right or doesn't sound right or you have questions about it, pick up the phone and call somebody because we're going to do the same thing. Mm-hmm. This is just more, you can read through this in the video if you want to pause me here. This is just talking more about our communication and how we get a hold of you and talk to you and try to keep communication open with you about your students' progress through the junior high school. We try everything in our power to make sure you know what's going on. And inevitably, we don't do enough. But I just need you to know that we try our best to keep you in the loop about everything that's going on. And these are just some of the ways that we do that. There's no place to put us. I'll put us right next to TikTok. I always talk in these meetings about social media. The junior high, and I can tell you this because when I was an elementary principal, I used to have a vision of the junior high as sort of this dark and foreboding place that was somehow going to eat my child when they walked through the door. And that's not what the junior high is at all. We're actually a very light, vibrant, fun-filled, gregarious group of folks at the junior high. We like to think of ourselves as the district's best kept secret. But if we have a dark underbelly, it comes from social media. We spend most of our time, and most of the worst behavioral things that happen at our school don't even happen at our school. They're happening on social media, and we're trying to pick up the pieces of it as we get into school the next day. Social development is a huge part of junior high. It's not always easy. It's not always smooth. It can be wrought with difficulties, and your kids can really struggle with it. You need to know that social relationships at the junior high can be very volatile. You can be best friends one day and worst enemies the next day, and that's normal. We like to make the difference between teasing and bullying. Bullying is a word, it does happen, but not as often as people think it does. More often you have situations where people were best friends and then they turn on each other and don't like each other at lunch, so they say mean things, where it's more like teasing. Bullying, when it happens, is got a power issue at play where kids that are in a socially strong place are picking on kids that aren't. That doesn't happen often at the junior high, but it does happen on occasion. What we would ask you to do is to be in control of your kids' digital lives. Pay attention to what they're doing on Snapchat and Instagram and TikTok. Those are the ones that they use a lot. I always put up in the corner the Facebook with a slash through it just to remind parents that kids don't use Facebook. It's a social media app for old people like me. But try to keep an eye on what your kids are doing and talk to them about it. Use social media as a time to teach kids about how to behave properly. Lord knows I know a lot of adults that don't know how to use social media, so we shouldn't be shocked when kids aren't using it correctly. So when we have these issues, we'll communicate with you and just be ready to talk about it. Some interesting and sometimes scary things happen on social media, and as a parent, it's in your best interest to know what's going on.
Definitely. And I would say encourage your child to come and let us know right away, or you give us a call if you're talking about it that night, so that we can grab them in the morning to deal with it. The sooner we find out about any kind of teasing, bullying, harassment, anything that's going on, the quicker we know about it, the more effective we are at dealing with it. And we will come down as hard as we possibly can. We want to make school a safe place for all of our kids.
All right, and then
Now onto web.
you get to talk about web, which I know is one of your favorite subjects.
Hey, so web is our transition program that started back in 2013. I found out it's been a long time. All of my years blend together, so I'm not sure. It stands for Where Everybody Belongs, and it's designed to help kids transition into like a new space using the older peer group. So we have, right now, I think I have about 45 of my best of the best 8th graders that all applied to be web leaders. They are going to volunteer their time. They're coming in over the summer so that they can learn to do different activities and step into the leadership role. So that way, when your students come for orientation, Mrs. McClear and Mrs. Trimboli and I run the orientation, and then about halfway through, we pass it off, and the web leaders are running the activities with their smaller groups. So when your child leaves orientation, they're going to have 2 8th graders that have their back. They're going to know 9 other students that they didn't know before, because I'm actually really picky about mixing them up. I'm trying to mix up all the buildings. So they might not know anybody in their web group. And the idea is for them to get to know more people and in a kind, safe environment. They're going to have a tour of the building. They'll get an opportunity to try out their lockers and make their way through everything. It's a really great program. And the cool thing is the 8th graders, sometimes 7th graders have stuff going on and they feel weird coming to me or Mr. Alexander about stuff, or any of their teachers, and they will a lot of times tell their web leader what's going on so that they can get a little bit of help, and the web leader then comes to us if it's beyond them. So it's a great program. I'm very excited.
And just so folks know, Mrs. Zaza just explained to you how web normally happens.
Yeah.
The chance that web may be a little different this summer, but no matter what it is, we really pride ourselves on trying to make a smooth transition from 7th to 8th. And
Mhm.
no matter what school looks like in the fall, our web program will be there to help that transition along.
Yep. And that first day of school, they even like the eighth graders are wearing their web shirts so that if any student gets lost, they know that the kid wearing that t-shirt is a safe kid. So
So
it's
that
lovely.
brings us to the end of our presentation, guys. So unless you have any questions, Mrs. Zaza, which I
I
know
have
that I
one
don't have
thing to
any.
add.
Okay.
My only thing to add was the thing that we forgot, that Mrs. Gilman wanted us to say is this is a year where some vaccinations are due. Your students are going to need, I think, the meningococcal vaccine, and I don't know if there's another one, but I know that I have my appointment set up so I can take my kids and get their shots and do their stuff. Make sure that you have been in touch with your child's practitioner to make sure that they're up to date so that they're ready to start on the first day. Because if they're not up to date on their vaccines, they may not be able to step foot in the building until they are.
So parents, this was a quick overview, just meant to give you some basic information about the junior high school. If you have any specific questions at any time, reach out to any of us. We appreciate your time. I'm sorry about the length of the video, but even our short version was not all that short.
I'm
Uh,
sorry.
if you need anything, just let me know, or you can call Mrs. Zaza or Mr. Alexander. Us three are always around to help. And at this point, I'm just going to say goodbye. Now, Mrs. Zaza, as I down, we shouldn't have awkward conversations because it's going to capture everything we do, including right now.